Forgot to unmute my mic. But we're good. Why are my hands warming up? It's so annoying. I'm ass at this game today. That means I need icon randomizer. Why is it doing that again? Icon randomizer is like my best, like my secret weapon for like being decent at this game. Why isn't... Hold on. Basically, what happened is my hands are just so fucking cold, and like I can barely feel them. So it's kind of hard to play the game when you can't feel your hands. So I went upstairs, washed my hands, like the hot water, like in a sink with like the highest temperature possible. Also got them Cheez-It. I feel so much better. You guys remembered? I need to take a break from Marvel because new Stormfly video. I need to watch that. It's basically a documentary about Exotic. You know, that one guy who literally everyone and their mother thought died. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, because he made that one tweet, but... Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. There is context behind that. Why am I getting recommendations for preview? Because first of all, the video's out, so I don't need it. Second of all,
August 2014, a year since Geometry Dash's initial release. With its growing popularity, it has led to the in-game leaderboards becoming tough competition, where only the most elite players rise up in the ranks. In 2014 though, its player base mostly consisted of Korean players, leading to the top position of the leaderboards looking something like this, with Sari, Cyclic, Super SNSD and Lunasim ahead of the rest. The traces of these grinds and efforts to be the top player can be seen in the Korean forum Naver and the Geometry World Group, GW for short. These forums allowed us to get a really detailed insight into how well each player was doing, but as some would soon notice during summer 2014, a new player will be rising up the ranks suspiciously quickly. Given how Geometry Dash was pathetically easy to cheat in at the time, this doesn't sound particularly special right out of the gate. A player that is grinding his way up the ranks suspiciously fast sounds like the typical case of just another cheater. There are multiple proven instances of this before, such as the exposal and subsequent ban of Flower happening a few months prior. But this player was different in that regard. Within the following year, everyone would notice this player's efforts, and unbeknownst to everyone at the time, went on
think I'd be catastrophic in this sweatshirt.
To become the strangest and one of the most mysterious players of all time, Exotic. If you're a new player to this game, this name probably means nothing to you. But this name is surrounded in mystery and intrigue to those who were around to witness their relatively short career. In terms of...
Let's look at this description. Exactly, bro. I mean, to be fair, there was like... To be fair, like, he almost died. Yeah. Yep, he's awesome.
Of legacy, this player has been nearly forgotten by most of the community, with seemingly no traces of their account even existing. The few people who attempted to interact with this player only ended up getting more questions than answers. So what was so special about this player? Well, he held the #1 spot on the star leaderboards for several months, which is quite a marvelous achievement considering as of February 2025, only 23 people have ever managed to reach this position legitimately. But if you remember me stating that Exotic gained that position suspiciously fast, this player was quickly surrounded in controversy as people thought he may have hacked his way up to the top. But again, none of this is particularly special if compared to other actual hackers that accomplished the same things illegitimately. The actual intrigue and mystery surrounding Exotic came from outside the game entirely. During late 2015, around a year after he showed up to be seen on the leaderboards, a Twitter account under the name exotic_GD posted a now infamous tweet that spread through the community like wildfire. The tweet suggested that he was Exotic, obviously, but more worryingly made the claim that he was dying, that the day he made
the last week, bye guys, sorry if a virus on my body.
This tweet was going to be his last day on this earth. Obviously, seeing someone make a claim like this is bound to gain a lot of attention through shock, especially from young people that admired him through his #1 position. But of course, at the same time, there were those that were skeptical of this claim. The account and post could have been made by literally anybody, someone who wanted to fake being someone famous and say anything that might cross their mind, no matter how it might impact that player's reputation. But as time went on, the skepticism that people had began to fade, as it became clear that soon after this Twitter post, Exotic would disappear, never to be heard from again. As a result, the community at large really did buy the story that he actually died, which got pretty extensive coverage by many different figures of the community at the time, with seemingly Exotic's GD career ending with his life. Albeit not very common knowledge, this is probably the most players know about Exotic, and there are no further details known by the general community. No one really knew who this player was, no one knew where they came from, and no one knew where they went, despite this supposed public claim of Exotic passing away. They disappeared just as quickly as they appeared. There were so many weird aspects and details surrounding this player, and yet no one could answer them. Over the years since Exotic disappeared, there have been many users in the community that have attempted to understand what truly went on in this player's story, with varying levels of success. But now, thanks to people like iNeo and Septagon, they have been able to collect a general idea and timeline of what actually went on, and I have been given the opportunity to tell this story to you all as a result. So in order to determine the origin story for Exotic, we'll have to start from the very beginning again, when Exotic had begun to actually show up, which unbeknownst to many, happened much earlier than one would expect. Going all the way back to one of the earlier updates of the game in August 2014, the 1.8 update, which had some differences compared to the more modern updates. The in-game star leaderboards were a bit different than they are now. Instead of the top 100 page we have today, only the top 50 players were ranked. The entry level for getting into these top spots were much easier too, but that didn't mean that the competition on these leaderboards weren't intense. There were also a much more frequent issue of hackers or quote-unquote bug users, as they were called back then, who would cheat their way to the top spots with
I've never
varying
heard that
levels of
before.
intelligence
Bug
with trying to
users.
appear legitimate. The
Guys, just a
security of the
bug.
game was even worse
Guys, I got 10,000. I got 1.8 quadrillion stars in one day. Just a bug.
than it is now, so seeing cheaters on these leaderboards were very commonplace. During this game's update, there were also a different leaderboard that no longer exists in these later updates, which was the weekly leaderboard. This one was also listing players based off their collected stars,
we need
but in a
to bring
slightly
that back.
different way. This one measured the number of stars players had collected within the past week, where the next week would reset the leaderboard for the whole cycle to begin anew. And it is through this weekly leaderboard that the story of Exotic begins to take shape.
We need
On the
that
day of
back.
Update 1.8's release, August 8th, 2014, the Korean player Modu would post 2 leaderboard screenshots to GW celebrating the milestone of attaining 2,900 stars. One of the screenshots was showing the weekly leaderboards, however, showing that he gained 650 stars that week. And conveniently, just below Modu is the player that the story is about, Exotic. The spelling and capitalization may be different, but this is the same account that would later sit atop the leaderboard. Even in this early instance, he makes quick progress towards his goal of reaching and progressing up the leaderboards, sitting comfortably within the top 10 spot of stars collected in that week alongside Modu.
Mishi.
Only 10 days after Modus' celebration,
Please, Mishi.
Exotic himself would surpass Modu and get into the top 30 global leaderboard himself. Before this point, he had not been seen in the top 50 before, so it was surprising to some GW users that Exotic had managed to climb as quickly as he did. Roughly another 2 weeks would pass and he would end up passing 4,000 stars in early September 2014, reaching the 21st spot on the global star leaderboard. It became pretty clear at the time that Exotic would continue to be a relevant name among the top players for collecting stars. And since it is now easier to follow what Exotic was actually up to through the records of global leaderboards, it is now worth mentioning something that I went over very briefly just a moment ago, which is that Exotic's name is sometimes slightly different. One element that is no longer present in the modern day of Geometry Dash was that back then, anyone could change their username into anything they wanted. The game in these older updates had no actual account system, so everything would be stored on the
I need to
mobile.
watch every single Surflight video and watch every single time he's mentioned how the account system works. I'm not trying to make fun of him for it. I'm just saying it's an important detail and he's had to mention it a lot, so it'd be fun to keep track of all the times.
Device you were playing. It basically really didn't matter what name you were using, and you can set it to whatever you wanted without the fear of the name being taken. It is for that reason you would sometimes see users on the top leaderboards all unanimously change their names to represent a particular event, like Valentine's Day, have their names changed to help out a user recover their stats that RobTop would notice when looking in the top leaderboards, or even straight up change it into a curse word like fuck you. But the actual reason I'm mentioning this was because Exotic had
They're only out there to hate. They're just only out there to hate.
a curse word like fuck you. But the actual
There's
reason
only out
I'm
there to
mentioning this was
hate.
because Exotic had quite the tendency of changing his name pretty frequently. I presented his name throughout this video as Exotic, with the number 3 replacing the E and a capital C at the end. But there were quite a number of different names he was using, albeit not spelling out anything different, but are mostly just different iterations of Exotic. Exotic with a big E and a big T, 2 Exotic 2 with 2 2s on each side, Exotic with the number and lowercase t that I've been showing in this video, Help PG 2004, which is just Exotic joining in with other players to help out a user in need, etc, etc. None of this is particularly relevant, but there is one username that stands out among them for its rather forward message. Exotic's account name at one point read out as Rate 2051-234. To a common GD player, it is
I know he's gonna mention it, but I wanna find out before he mentions it. 205-1234. No, it doesn't exist. He's gonna say it now, but I don't care.
pretty clear what this actually means, and this is essentially Exotic trying to get a level with this ID to be rated.
That's what's that guy's name? The guy who made Silent Club Accepted, or Silent Club Rate 110 something, or Black P2S Full.
By RobTub, so you could collect stars from it. Probably the most honorable status a level can have. But here's where the weird part about all of this comes in. If you were to type this ID into the game right now, you would find nothing. At all. The level's gone. Now, that isn't particularly
Yeah, it's not too obscure. Levels get deleted all the time.
new or anything. Levels disappearing throughout GD's history is such a
Sometimes
common
your
thing
tap
to
is retarded. Sometimes the player just wants you deleted. Sometimes their account, like so much stuff happens.
happen thanks to Rob's weird management of the servers, or because the players themselves just wanted to remove them. But one thing we can do in the modern day is check through the comments that were posted on the level when it was still up. And to say that these comments increases the level of mystery surrounding this level is an understatement, with every single comment posted suggesting that the level's difficulty was brutal. And who had the latest comment on this level before it was deleted? iFresternock, one of the original creators of the previously mega popular Demon List, seeming very
We could contact that guy.
proud of having gotten only 4%. I really hope this isn't another case of Elements 111 RG or Ice Carbon Titan X, but it really does seem to suggest that based on these comments. And why would a player with already so much mystery and intrigue be insinuating to rate a level that has seemingly disappeared without a trace, much like Exotic himself? It seems to suggest that this level might have been a level uploaded by Exotic, which would give us more of an insight of what kind of person he was. But then again, it could also just be assumed that this might not even have been Exotic's level. It could have just been this random level he really liked. Thankfully, we have the answers for this, thanks to Septagon's prior research. When this was discovered by him, Septagon did what he could to see if any of the players in the comments here were possible to reach out to. Most of them were sadly either unresponsive or long since inactive. But one of them, however, was reachable. The user Italian APK down at the very bottom
No way!
hardest level ever was possible to reach out to. While some of the viewers watching this video may recognize this name as a popular mobile hack creator, is in reality a merged account between two different users, Italian APK down himself and the old account of the very well-regarded creator Galvatron, whose levels and comments were moved to that account during the most destructive hacking scandal in the game's history, the Team Hack server breach. Septagon reached out to Galvatron about this and was able to confirm that he did remember playing this level, and indeed that it was a level by Exotic himself. According to Galvatron's claims, it was supposedly a maze level with extreme timing scattered about, with the level name supposedly being a single abstract word. But Galvatron did not remember anything further, and his old account's save data was deleted some time after playing this mysterious level. And sadly, that is where that part of the story comes to a close, with no further answers on who Exotic is and what this mysterious level was. So we have no choice but to once again go back to following the stats Exotic was able to accomplish. In early October 2014, Exotic would continue showing off his quite incredible speed of collecting stars in the game, allowing him to enter the top 10 spots of the global leaderboards. For every week that passed, his position would just continue climbing more and more and more, where on the 19th of October he would already hit top 5. Exotic's speed was so much quicker than everyone else, and GW was really starting to pick up on that. A post from the user Palery would go on to mention Exotic and how he was catching up to literally everybody, stating the following in a rough translation. How the hell do you collect stars fast enough to get to that level? I suspect that it is cheat. Demons are also increasing by 3 to 4 every day. I'm getting 50 to 80 stars almost every day. Is this a cheat? Yeah, probably the thought that enters many people's minds at this point is that Exotic was not a legitimate player and cheated to gain stars this quickly. If he's outshining literally everyone else in terms of speed that badly, there might be an indication that something is not quite right. You weren't alone to believe that either, as on the 15th of November 2014, the top 2 player in the world at the time, LunarSimg, would make a call-out post exposing the insane pace Exotic had kept up, with many of the other top star grinders agreeing that it was practically impossible. In this post, LunarSimg urged people to join together and mass report Exotic's account to RobTub. A rough translation of the post describes the following.
There's no proof.
How the hell does Exotic work? They collect 100 stars every day and beats 2 to 3 demons every day as well. You have to be really good to do this. It's not like I expect him to have video. And the other day, he was beating 4 or 5 or even 6 demons a day. That's 100% cheating. He's probably using a cheat, so my request to you please report this hacker by email. You can send email to info@robtopgames.com or rob.topalo@gmail.com.
Sure, yeah, sure he's gonna see it. Guys, I'm sure he's gonna find the email. Also, I'm sure he's gonna see it. You know what's questionable? I don't think we're gonna find any new information from this. Or I wonder if RobTop just like sells the email. Like, he'll probably just like ghost us if we ask him, and also it probably won't give us any new information, but it might be interesting.
Please use the subject line hacker report. Please write something like, I think Exotic is a cheater. Please remove him from the leaderboards. I see he gained 4 more demons today.
Get rid of
Let's
him.
get rid of him. Thank you.
Leave bro alone.
There are those people that are immediately going to jump at Lunar Sims' statements here, claiming that doing what Exotic did in this time is really easy. But please, you have to remember, beating demons and collecting stars in this pace was a way bigger deal in 2014 than it is now. In this exposal, Lunar Sim not only puts Exotic's fast increase of stars collected and demon grinding into question, but the level PG Clubstep is brought up due to a theory that Lunar Sim had to prove him hacking. Now, that might sound strange at first because, to me, that did seem like a weird choice to use a level acknowledged in the map packs to be used as an example for Exotic cheating. But it does become clear when you realize that at the time, PG Clubstep had actually become impossible in the game's update 1.8 due to a hitbox change. As previously stated, PG Clubstep is in a map pack, Demon Pack 11 specifically. Since each map pack rewards coins for beating them, the coins that could be gained from beating Demon Pack 11 were no longer possible to get until PG Clubstep was fixed, meaning that technically the most secret coins that could be acquired legitimately at the time was 118 and not 120. Before this point, players like LunarSimg and several other legitimate players had already collected all 120 coins, but Exotic still only had 118. LunarSimg then speculated that if he saw Exotic's coin count increase, he could be fairly certain that he was hacking. And sure enough, Exotic would gain the last 2 coins on November 11th, 9 days after Lunar noticed PG Clubstep was impossible in the current update. However, this also happened 2 days after Geometry Dash's 1.9 update had come out, which added 7 more secret coins, making the new highest amount 127. But RobTop being RobTop had put a hard cap of how many secret coins could be displayed on your profile to 120, meaning Exotic might have had way more than 120, but the leaderboard simply didn't show it until sometime later with future game patches. This means that there was still no solid evidence of Exotic hacking, despite the suspicious nature of how he gained his stats. And nothing would really change even after Lunar's attempt at accusing Exotic, despite the hacking allegations.
If element 111RG was a person, Exotic.
Floating around. Literally on the same day the exposure was posted, Exotic acquired 10,000 stars and entered the top 3. Not only that, but if players thought that the speed was unnatural and ridiculous before, Exotic's star grinding rate would only increase from this point.
Like if he didn't have
from
a GW
November
account,
30th to December 3rd, he would gain 550 stars in just a 4-day span. And then on December 15th, he would gain 859 stars and beat 19 demons in under 6 hours.
Crazy.
Which this rate of speed is impressive even today, especially for a player in the top 3 at the time. In fact, this was starting to look properly suspicious now, because this speed was actually becoming rather ridiculous. But luckily for Exotic, he had still not been banned yet, allowing his reign to continue uncontested. And now we have reached 2015 in the story, with Exotic's grinds seemingly never ending. The top 2 players at the time, LunarSimg and Sari, are being threatened to be overtaken, with Exotic being exactly 100 stars away from passing Sari in 2nd place. After Sari had become inactive, it would now be easier for Exotic to reach the 2nd spot, but trying to keep up with LunarSimg was going to be quite the challenge, especially now with Lunar making it very clear where he stands with Exotic. And with Exotic passing Sari on the 2nd of January 2015, the only one left to overtake was LunarSimg himself, and Lunar knew full well that at this rate, he would not be able to keep Exotic away. His speed was just that much crazier than everyone else's. He even went ahead and expressed publicly on the 8th of January with a level upload named Exotic will be first. And yeah, that is exactly what would happen. On 24th of January 2015, Exotic passed LunarSim on the leaderboards and became the new #1 player. A journey that took 169 days of grinding and 15,816 stars obtained would allow Exotic to reach his end goal. As can be expected at this point, LunarSim and Exotic would continue swapping placements with each other. Lunar was determined to not let Exotic keep the top spot and even managed to reclaim the #1 spot just a day later with a single star. Then the next day, Exotic would take the lead
auto
once more.
level just to pass.
2 days later, Lunar would reclaim top spot again. You get the idea. But it turned out that Exotic would struggle keeping up with this rivalry at the time, since LunarSim would regain and hold the top position at this point for nearly 3 months. During these 3 months, nothing would really change in terms of positions, in the exception of a new name showing up in the leaderboards, Michigan, who had also managed to overtake Sari and enter in the top 3. But on the 18th of April 2015, Exotic would for the third and final time pass LunarSim. After this point, Lunar had become disinterested in the game and wouldn't be grinding stars for months, allowing Exotic to sit in the top spot uncontested. Sari had entered a phase of inactivity, and Michigan had a gap of over 1,000 stars in order to pass Exotic. So for now, we had our new #1 star grinder. With even more non-Korean players joining the top ranks, such as the player SedNemo98, having recently entered the top 5 back in March 2015. One could say that Exotic overtaking LunarSim was the end of the era of Korean players dominating the leaderboards. But after all of this effort, this is where Exotic's mystery truly began to arise. Michigan and SedNemo98 were a threat to Exotic's top spot, given that the both of them had the potential to reach the top 1 spot with enough dedication. Exotic would no longer be grinding to anywhere near the same speeds as we have seen him previously, and as a result, SedNemo98 would be the next player to catch up to him after LunarSim. On the 4th of August 2015, he would overtake Exotic with 19,172 stars, and a potential for another rivalry was on the horizon. Exotic had at this point been at the top of the leaderboard for 108 days straight, 111 days if you count the position swapping with LunarSim. Therefore, one could safely assume that Exotic would begin another competitive grind to keep his position away from SedNemo98. But no, it was not to be. Instead, as we all know by now, he would disappear. 10 days after SedNemo had taken the top spot, Exotic alongside many other players actually would seem to disappear from the leaderboards all at once. It wasn't just Exotic that disappeared, and as a matter of fact, the reasoning behind these players disappearing is actually a little more devious than you would expect. During August 2015, the 2.0 update had been around the corner for what seemed like months, as at the time, 2.0 had become the longest awaited major update in the game's history, which is such painful foreshadowing and is...
Bro, dude, I know guys, it's such a long time, it's a full, it's like, guys, it took a long time, it's a full 9 months.
Not even funny. RobTop had been teasing that the 2.0 update was nearly ready, and had sent for approval to Apple to publish this update onto the app stores. Players were, however, getting impatient, particularly a player who goes by the name mGhostIH. mGhostIH quickly developed a reputation as a person that spent time developing hacks for the game, and some of them were really famous, such as the original FPS bypass and noclip. Admittedly though, he wasn't impatient because he wanted to play the update for himself, but because unbeknownst to most people at the time, the current 1.9 update of GD had many security vulnerabilities within its servers. It was known that Update 2.0 would be improving the game's anti-cheat along with other general improvements, so the hope was that these flaws in the server would be patched upon the update's release. But on 15th of August, mGhostIH decided to take matters into his own hands and rush the update to be released faster. He decided to abuse a server vulnerability that allowed anyone to get access to other people's accounts, not for malicious purposes, but for show, and to get RobTop's attention. The way he did this was by writing a script that would use the IDs of accounts, going from ID 1 and upwards to affect many different accounts automatically. It would then change the account's username to exploit in all caps, their icons set to default, both colors set to lime green and setting their star count to 65,000. This star count would shoot anyone affected up to the top of the global leaderboard, where GD's current anti-cheat would quickly ban them. MGO's IH let the script run overnight and then stopped it after it had gone up to around 4,000 account IDs, with the largest confirmed ID being 4321. One of the many accounts affected by this was Exotic himself, who along with several other top players such as Lunasim, Sari, and Cyclic would be banned from the leaderboards while this was happening. Thankfully for the people affected, this hack would only last around the day, and most people would be quickly unbanned and their stats rolled back to their previous counts. Exotic was also unbanned and reclaimed his second position on the leaderboards for the time, with said Nemo98 still holding out as the new top 1. Not long after this incident, it wouldn't take much longer for Update 2.0 to release, as regardless of how you view MGO's IH's actions, it evidently did do its job, and it did get robbed to patch the server vulnerability that was exploited. Update 2.0 would come out August 26, 2015, and with a much stronger anti-cheat as promised. Upon its release, a lot of known cheaters would be automatically banned, and perhaps not a surprise to you, Exotic was included. Yeah, the new and improved anti-cheat caught Exotic. Though his cheating methods wasn't and still isn't known, and nobody had enough damning evidence to expose him, it was widely thought of in the English and the Korean communities that he was very likely cheating in some way. And here we have the new anti-cheat from 2.0 confirming that aspect in the eyes of many. With Exotic rebanned, this is where it officially becomes really difficult finding any traces of Exotic, as there is seemingly no trace of his account in any in-game screenshots, and from the surface, this is where Exotic's story was originally supposed to end. But in October 2015 is where Exotic's name would become what it is today. Thanks for all, guys. Okay, this is my last tweet. Goodbye, guys. Sorry, but I have a virus on my body. My last day was incredible and it is about to end. This isn't a joke. October 15th, 2015. Nearly 2 months after Exotic was last seen on the leaderboards and was a prominent thought in players' minds, this tweet brought the Exotic name back into the community. And as any veteran of using the internet would think, is this tweet true? As I stated at the beginning of this video, the account and post could have been made by literally anybody. But questions arise anyway. Could a former top 1 star grinder be dead or dying? Was the Twitter account even the real Exotic?
I mean, he had mostly
Looking
clicked
into
the
the account that posted this, it may have been his last tweet, but it wasn't the first. Shortly before this tweet was posted, he deleted all of the previous tweets on the account, but there's activity on this account all the way back since August 28th, 2 days after he was officially banned from 2.0's anti-cheats. It goes back even further when looking at when the account was created, all the way back in July 13th, 2015. So to real quick get an idea of what was supposedly going on with Exotic in the last 3 months he was still around, let's go back to July here and retrace our steps through his social media platforms to get back to October, where the death tweet was eventually posted. The same day this user created the account, he answers some questions from new followers. Most notably, he reveals his nationality as being Italian, debunking the common rumor that he was a Korean player. He would also mention that he plays on mobile, which is backed by some screenshots he will later post. Social media accounts would be made on platforms such as Facebook, where his name was Jonathan Hardstep, and Instagram with an account named GMD_exotic, but with no activity until later. But going
Curious. Check Insta. Does still exist. His last post was August 24th, 2015. All the comments are from like yesterday. From 6 to 235 followers. Who does he follow? Vibrant, a bunch of random other YouTubers. proof I'm real exotic, and then it's a screenshot of him. Second on global. Follow me on Twitter. Thanks for 70 followers. Waiting for 2.0 Lenny face. A selfie. Interesting. I hacked this guy. What? I need to take a piss. That has nothing to do with this, but I really have to take a piss. His Instagram account is really interesting, actually.
Going back to the Twitter account, he would post some pretty interesting images, the first one being a screenshot of Ice Carbon Diablo X 100% completed. At the time, this was the second hardest demon in the game based off the demon list, and this image showed a side of Exotic we had not previously seen before. Along with being the #1 star grinder at the time, he also seemed to be one of the best players in the game, able to beat incredibly difficult levels. Riot was the only other player who had legitimately beaten Ice Carbon Diablo X at the time,
I'm impressed
which
with
made
my
this
own
an
abilities.
incredible achievement. That is, of course, if it were legitimate. Obviously, there were skeptics about this legitimacy of this, and for good reason too, as despite the image he posted, he had no video proof or beating the level, nor did he have any proof that it was even exotic to begin with. Even if the account was active since July, there was no reason to believe that any of these social media accounts were actually owned by the real player yet. But that would change the very next day, on July 14th, 2015. So angry. Fake? Who is the unique person that has 627 demons? That's right, Exotic. Oh wait, that's me. A proof screenshot was posted demonstrating his account stats page showing 627 demons completed, along with other stats such as having every secret coin and map pack completed. This was enough to settle most people, as sure enough, Exotic was the only player in the entire game at that point that have that many demons completed, and surely if someone were to fake it, they would also show up on the leaderboards themselves. There were still some skeptics, but the image seemed to be real.
I think that account is
2 days
exotic.
later, another demon completion screenshot would be posted, this time of the hardest demon in the game at the time, Cataclysm, and he would supposedly be the 4th victor of this extreme demon if it was legitimate. But that's the thing. It started to become pretty clear to many now that Exotic was just cheating, if it hadn't already been clear through his ridiculous star grinding abilities. And if there were still any doubts about this being the real Exotic, a month after Exotic had been dethroned by SethNumo98, he would post another screenshot as proof as he was the real Exotic, and this one was more or less irrefutable. It was a full picture of Exotic at number 2 in the global tab, with his account being highlighted. If the account is highlighted in this manner with a yellow background in the leaderboards, it means that you are logged into that highlighted account. The only somewhat credible way of faking this was to edit together a convincing image through GIMP or Photoshop, but it was safe to say that
his account got hacked.
Made most users believe this to be the real Exotic. And to be honest, all Exotic ended up doing from this point forward was further drag his credibility as a legitimate player down in the dirt. August 12th, 2015, Exotic would start activity on his Instagram account, posting the same leaderboard proof screenshot and advertising his Twitter account, but none of the posts there are exclusive to his Twitter posts, so let's leave that alone. Going back to his Twitter
Talk about a selfie! Come on!
August 16th, the same day that Exotic was unbanned after the exploit hack, he would post another demon completion screenshot.
He's like Loki, kind of cute.
The original image of this has unfortunately been lost to time, but judging by the replies and things he said later on Facebook, this seems to have been an image of 100% Bloodbath. The first picture after Riot on Bloodbath with proper video wouldn't happen until 8 months after the verification, and here you have Exotic supposedly posting an image of getting it done in 4 days. Yeah, right. And once more, there was still no video evidence to back up any of his completion screenshots.
He's just really good. He's just really good. Trust me.
People in the replies would quickly call bullshit on this one, and a lot of people would be implying that he was bug abusing. Specifically, the empty level bug from 1.9 that with some specific menu inputs allowed you to beat any level as if it was completely empty. As far as I know, those accusations were never really addressed, as the next day, Exotic would post a face reveal, one of several images he would post of himself in fact, but that will become more relevant a bit later towards the end of the story.
What do you mean it's gonna be relevant?
So we're skipping that for now and censoring it. Back to when the 2.0 anti-cheat had re-banned Exotic, he would change his Twitter handle from GMD_Exotic to Exotic_GD, just another case of him slightly altering the way his name is spelled. And after that, he kind of disappeared for a while. Other people would show screenshot of Exotic's in-game account no longer showing up when searched, suggesting he had changed his username. In the background of the screenshot, it shows a Twitch account under the name GeometryD_Exotic, but this account is now gone, without any archives made for it, hence there's no information about what that account actually was. If we go by the assumption that it was real, it suggests that Exotic's username was indeed changed on that day, as he responds to a question in chat that goes, "Exotic, what is your Geometry Dash name please?" Slowly creeping back to October, we jump forward 2 weeks later on September 13th, where he would all of a sudden tweet in Chinese, which when translated read out as the following: "I'll keep playing Geometry Dash and reach the top 100 again. This is not my end." This is the one and only example where Exotic decided to tweet in Chinese, and the grammar suggests it was very likely not written as such either, but rather translated from English. To me, it really did seem like Exotic was doing his damnedest to ensure that his story remained as vague and as cryptic as possible, but if you ask me, without success at this rate. The statement itself, however, does seem to suggest that he had created a new account, since the original Exotic account would now never be unbanned again. If this actually was the case though, we will never know because it is still unknown what that account was or what its name was. His statement of him trying to reach the top 100 again never come true, since with all the documentation made towards the top leaderboard, such an account with the same mysterious intrigue has never been found. Another week later, and he would begin using his Facebook account, demonstrated in the same writing, punctuation, and grammar styles we have seen from the other places. Nothing particularly new will be mentioned, the same things we've already seen before. Being Italian, playing on mobile, beating Bloodbath, etc, etc. But, about the Bloodbath completion, he would all of a sudden drop this. "RobTop banned me because I hacked. Please don't think that I hacked all my demon levels. I hacked Bloodbath and that's just a percentage because my legit record was 74. So I'm not a noob. Then don't say Exotic is a fucking noob, he hacked all his demons, please." So yeah, Exotic came out and confessed to having cheated, but only on Bloodbath. After that, Exotic would descend into silence. 2 days later, he would go on to change his Facebook username to Steve Hardstep for some reason. And after that, all of his social media accounts will slowly but surely grow more and more inactive as time progresses. Throughout September and early October, it is unclear what was actually posted, but based off the follower responses they received as a result of them, it appeared to be cryptic and vague messages once again, albeit more on the darker end this time, since people have begun to get worried. Some of Exotic's friends were spreading around rumors of a virus at the time as well.
Harvard University
sure enough,
lives in Rome,
we
Italy.
have now arrived back at October 15th, the date of the infamous tweet and last confirmed activity from Exotic anywhere online. The player Alibetha, at the time known as Kitty Neon, would write an in-game profile post
Two comments, they both say fake.
"Today, my friend Exotic died.
Lost.
Everyone used his icons today and tomorrow in his memory. Rest in peace." And she would also release a level titled "In Exotic Honor," spreading the message even further than on Twitter. From here, it would be quickly picked up and spread around in the community. More levels would show up speaking in the more detail regarding Exotic's death, such as For Exotic by Rand Zero. It spoke of the idea that Exotic did not pass away from a virus, but rather leukemia, a blood cancer. Obviously, with all of these insane rumors being thrown around like crazy, most people did not believe these statements to be true. But as time passed and every subsequent return from Exotic would be proven to be an impersonator, many people began to accept that he either died or quit the game wanting to cause some drama on the way out and get his name talked about one last time.
His handle is
And
still
to say
Jonathan
that this
Hardstep.
caused quite the
That's his
rough
handle.
domino effect would be an understatement.
Former gamer on YouTube.
Now, anyone who knows this community will
Cheap
sadly
info.
probably know where all of this is going.
In a relationship since September 19th, 2015. Interesting. So he follows. Like nobody interesting. See what accounts is liked. No one interesting. Places lived: Rome, Italy, and Rome, Italy. It says he still lives there. Help Steve. How do I like a account? I don't fucking know.
Impersonators. Everywhere. Even in a situation like this where a supposed dead player is involved, there are still those hoping to gain from it. Some people out there has a moral integrity that fucked, yeah. Plus, with Exotic's in-game account having its name changed all the way back in August, it really would be pathetically easy for anyone to attempt to impersonate. And that is exactly what ended up happening, only a few days after the infamous tweet was posted. Now, personally, I am not really up for giving these people any attention, because it would mean that their bullshit actually worked in their favor. But there quite frankly were so many different people trying to impersonate in this instance that it is practically innumerable. The common tropes of impersonators did show up in all cases too. Multiple profile posts saying highly immature things, posting levels not even built by them but stole them from somewhere else in order to gain attraction, getting caught and trying to deflect the blame by claiming what they did was a tribute and nonsense like that. With the popular GD YouTuber C also working on a video about Exotic in March 2017, that unfortunately increased the number of impersonators even more. The social media accounts had also been a target for these
Guys, we're about to get like a billion
with
more
the
impersonators now.
Exotic_GD Twitter account being in the hands of multiple impersonators over the years. It had been hacked several times between May 2016,
So it's the same
February
account?
2017, January 2019, September 2019, and with tweets since February 2020 still up to this day. Each time the account gets hacked, it is used for a few disrespectful
So it's the
memes
same
for a few
account.
days, and then abandoned until the next person to hack the account comes along. Once Exotic's name had finally begun to quiet down as a prominent community figure, did all of these things end. But all the pieces of the story have been left so jumbled up and broken that the story of Exotic quite generally did not receive proper closure until Septagon and others' horribly complicated research. And that pretty much marks the end of Exotic's reign, with nothing but a bunch of impersonators trying to steal it away once he vanished. But there's still some unanswered questions to all of this. We'll go through each of them one by one, starting with the first mystery that began to surface. What actually happened to Exotic's GD account? As already established, we know that the original Exotic account changed the username sometime between August 26th and August 28th, 2015. But there's seemingly no record of what the new username was, and nobody seems to know for sure when he stopped playing the game. A couple of different theories have surfaced regarding this.
Probably when he got
One of
banned.
them is how a year prior, at the end of August 2014, there were a couple of GW posts found that show Exotic commenting on levels, back when he was called Exotic with the capital E and T. He had recently entered the top 50 leaderboard. On the level Giant Level by creator MindGD, he commented waste of time, leading a GW user to make a post pointing out how rude he came across. This is Exotic. Trash. Feel free to report this. Absolutely hopeless. Played this map above, and when I watched comments, it was a mess. Who the hell liked this comment? Get out, Exotic. What a trash guy. If you search for the level today, this comment does still exist, and the username is now RealTG Exotic. Sounds like it could be him, right? Well,
Before he mentions it, I'm gonna search it myself. They spell real TG Exotic. Nothing. 78 levels, actually. Where what I meant to search.
Sadly, it isn't Exotic's account. Back when the GW post was made, Exotic did use the same username, but this one had different capitalization. There were also other inconsistencies with this account, such as their account ID being way too high to have been affected by MGhost IH's exploit script, like we know how happened to the real Exotic. On top of that, the stat counts don't line up either with what we have seen documented. The account that we're looking for needs to not only have relatively identical stats to when Exotic was banned, but also have the identification number of the account match to when Exotic could have originally created it.
I mean,
with more modern
it's possible, like, after he got banned, he created a new account, and this is the new account he created.
methods of research possible with the game, something was indeed discovered on January 2021.
Nice voice crack.
A Twitter user who goes by the name Rexy would make a tweet about something they found. While looking through all the earliest account IDs in the game using the external website GD Browser, a very peculiar account was found. Rexy titled this post, "Is this Exotic WTF?" and the image displayed an account with identical stats, appropriate icon set, and with the account ID being a very likely match. And what was the account name? Extinction. Their only profile post? Gone forever. Exotic. The account ID was 172, one of the earliest people to register with the new account system that Update 1.9 introduced, which in turn made this account one of the earliest people to be affected by exploit. Compared to the last known screenshot of Exotic's account just hours before 2.0, this one had 452 more stars, 6 more demons, 8 more coins, and a surprisingly high, but not unbelievable, user coin count gained. The account was leaderboard banned similar to Exotic, seen by the lack of leaderboard position on the top left here. Their post is dated to late 2015, and they have comments on the account from early to late 2015 as well. Septicon did some research into the profile post and figured out that the profile post was made on October 13th, 2015, 2 days before the infamous Twitter post. The account had some comments in their history, that the profile post was made on October. Septicon did some research into the profile post and figured out that the profile post was made on October 13th, 2015, 2 days before the infamous Twitter post. The account had some comments in their history, and if we observe any reactions to each of the comments, there are quite a few here to be seen, gushing over the fact that it is Exotic. I think it is safe to say that this right here is none other than Exotic himself. Here is where he ended up. If this was an impersonation attempt, it would take an incredibly old account, registered on the first day of 1.9, had played since 1.7, and conveniently changed their name around the same time that the real Exotic did. There's too many details in this that any impersonator will begin to consider, so I can safely say that here we have Exotic, still leaderboard banned to this day. There was an anomaly that occurred in May 21st, 2021, where the GD leaderboards would be unfrozen after years of never being updated since 2017. This resulted in everyone getting unbanned, Exotic plus other cheaters and hackers included. But after this was discovered, they were all rebanned once more, including this Extinction account a few months later. So yeah, this should be all the confirmation you need. The only oddity about this account though is that the latest 4 comments posted on this one are rather peculiar.
Let me check the account. What levels? No levels.
Within the first 2 updates of 2.0, meaning Exotic was already banned by now, he would go to the feature tab and spam the following comment on the first level of several pages. He likely spammed the comment many more times than his comment history would suggest, but comment purchase over time prevent us from seeing these. The comment read out as, servers will be down in like 16 hours for 3 days. Don't worry nerds, after 3 days you can play further. Shortly afterwards he would comment, thanks for your attention. There was no reported server outage in GD at the time and the comments weren't really talked about anywhere. So whatever his intentions were here, he didn't get the attention he wanted from it. It can be easy to assume that this was just a petty move on Exotic's end as a result of being banned for cheating, but I'm not so sure it is that simple. These new comments' his writing style have different tone and punctuation usage compared to what we've seen before from him, both in-game and on his social media accounts, as well as there being a large time gap between these comments and the older ones. Nearly all the screenshots from both the Twitter and Facebook accounts use Spanish or broken English, along with a distinct punctuation and spacing style, using commas frequently and usually putting no space after punctuation. None of the in-game comments fit this description at all, with the older comments being only a few words in English and the later comments being full English sentences, and with a difference in how ellipses, periods, and commas were used. The inconsistency presented from Exotic makes it rather difficult to know if he is the one behind the account comments or even the social media platforms. It seems like there is more than one person involved at times, and the approach they decide to run with switch constantly. We've seen this user present himself in so many different nationalities, so many different approaches to commenting, and different languages that even at this stage, it is still kind of unclear who he really is. What can be made clear is that the circumstantial evidence includes the fact that Exotic's account in-game went inactive at the same time as the Twitter account, with that said Twitter account following up with a countdown a few days before Extinction's profile post. If we run with the idea that Extinction is indeed the real Exotic, which is highly likely, we can move on to the next unanswered question. If Exotic only hacked specific completions such as Bloodbath as he claims, was he legitimate on his star grinding routine? Obviously, as we have established throughout Exotic's story, people have been suspicious of him ever since he began showing up in any of the top spots, all due to his rather insane speed. Throughout these few months of activity before he became number 1, not many people took notice outside of the Korean community on GW, but within, on the other hand, everyone that mentions him does so with insane suspicion, with many of the top players calling him a hacker and comparing him to other notorious stat hackers from before his time. Following his reign at number 1, people in the English-speaking community would also come to believe he cheated, and there have been multiple sightings of insane stat jumps and anomalies that would not fall under the legitimate circumstances. There are multiple examples of absolutely ridiculous grinding speeds, some of which are insane even today. 500 stars and 27 demons in a week in November 2014. Editor's note here, because I didn't even see this until now. 500 stars and 27 demons in a week in November 2014. Editor's note here, because I didn't even see this until now. 1,413 stars and 32 demons in 5 days in December 2014. He was even claimed to have always been within the top week leaderboard, which is something rare for most star grinders. At this point, the main theory of how Exotic was hacking was either directly editing the stats to display any number he wanted, or using the empty level glitch. There were also some people thinking that he may have been using an external cheating tool such as Game Hacker or Game Guardian. Prior to 1.9, directly configuring your in-game stats was a lot easier than it is now. One of the game's files, ccgamemanager.dat, was unencrypted and editable in plain text. This file, among other things, contained data about the player's account, including the star, demon, and coin counts that would display on the global leaderboards. If the player had an iPhone, the files had already been encrypted since 1.0, but it would take until update 1.811, over an entire year, for RobTop to add encryption to Android devices. Now, it is actually not likely that Exotic used this method of configuring stats, since he continued gaining stars after the release of said update in August 2014. But a method that would have credibility would be the empty level glitch. This bug was genuinely so simple that anyone who knew about it could do it immediately and abuse it to gain stars and demons without any effort. All you needed to do was hold down the player button, press the delete button while still holding the play button, and then release it. This will trick the game into thinking that you've entered the level you pressed play, but because it was deleted from your downloads, an empty level will play instead, and you will get the awards completing that said level would normally give you. This glitch was known in the community for a long time, and it would only be patched in February 12th, 2015, with the release of update 1.93. And by this point, Exotic had already reached number 1, but fell back to number 2 on the leaderboards. Now obviously, Exotic would still gain stars in order to reclaim his number 1 spot again, but the insane pace that he had before had slowed down. It wasn't anywhere near as fast as he was during his supposed peak. And to me, that already says a lot about his legitimacy. He also wouldn't help his case either thanks to his own claims, as he continued having suspicious moments, such as the claim from April 2015 that he beat 38 demons in a goddamn day, followed by next week where he would beat another 26 demons in also a day. Neither of these claims have any proof and are also incredibly untrustworthy, especially if you consider that this is supposedly a player that has already done so many in-game demons. Anyone who does demon grinding would know that at some point when you reach the higher amounts you could possibly get, the choices of demons you can actually beat become very scarce, and you will have to go for the really hard ones that take a long time to beat. And Exotic here just casually beats 38 in a day, and 26 another day, as if he has created a brand new account to beat demons on. Twice. Combine that with all of the nonsense he claims surrounding Cataclysm, Ice Carbon Diablo X, and Bloodbath, and there are just so many ridiculous claims that stain the legitimacy of Exotic. Plus, according to an actual legitimate top star grinder, the player Cool supposedly found out that RobTop had even checked Exotic's account himself, and concluded that he indeed was a cheater. With him getting banned as soon as 2.0 release with the better anti-cheat, multiple suspicious star grinding claims, and top demons supposedly beaten without any video proof, yeah, Exotic was a cheater. There's generally no sugarcoating it. There eventually comes a point where circumstantial evidence becomes so much that it ends up just speaking for itself. And now, with pretty much the legend of Exotic kind of destroyed at this point, now only one question remains, and is probably one of the main reasons some people stuck around to watch this. Did Exotic actually pass away? Ever since his final tweet in October 2015, there have been multiple theories and a lot of speculation about all of this, with varying levels of respect and attitude. We can once more go back to the player Alibetha, known as Kitty Neon at the time, when she posted the level in Exotic honor. A lot of people took note of this, as stated earlier, most of them commemorating the loss. But one YouTuber named GD Water would post a much more accusatory video, claiming that Exotic faked for attention. He didn't give much reason, only citing that he wouldn't want to play GD anymore after getting banned for hacking. One of Waters' own quotes being, "Even though this was his real Twitter, that doesn't mean he's dead. Don't trust everything you see on the internet." This video obviously garnered attention pretty quickly, becoming one of the first things to show up when people try to research into Exotic.
Celebrities, like, after they expose
how
something
exactly
bad,
Exotic
they're not fake
supposedly
their own
passed away,
He's not really
there's no wonder there were skeptics. Despite the tweet itself saying Exotic had a virus, a bunch of different death causes were brought up in the community thanks to its vague description, leukemia being one that was mentioned earlier. But probably the most realistic rumor came up within the English-playing community, being that he died of MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. In late 2015, South Korea was affected by the outbreak of this virus, eventually proving In 2015, South Korea was affected by the outbreak of this virus, eventually proving fatal to several people. Thanks to the rumors that Exotic was Korean for a while, this theory seemed the most plausible as a result. And if this was the case, this would imply that his statement on Twitter of being Italian was complete nonsense as well. This old tweet mentioning his nationality was removed by this point, so the speculation of him being Korean, like he originally started, took place once more. It led to most people accepting the MERS theory as a fact, despite in reality it was based on a misconception and likely false. The reality of the situation here is that it's genuinely likely that he didn't die at all. And how do we know that? Well, based on his own Twitter account's activity. Around 2 months after the infamous tweet in early December 2015, replies from the Twitter account began again and kept going until early January 2016. Now, that doesn't have to mean anything. That could still be a friend of Exotic running the account or some impersonator that hijacked it. But after a number of different people were contacted that played a role in the story, such as Alibetha herself and even the impersonators, one of the people reached out to would provide with really valuable information, and his username was StormXTR. At the time, he was known as Dios_Bridges, and he was a very good friend with Exotic, which can be seen from their replies to one another. They were even close enough friends that they met up in real life, with Exotic traveling from Italy to Chile to meet him. GD News spoke with StormXTR to get any information they could, and boy does he reveal a fair bit. Firstly, if you remember me mentioning a bit ago, Exotic would post a face reveal, which I proceeded to censor back then. There's a very good reason for that, because it is not even Exotic. The person in this photo is one of his classmates, not Exotic himself. StormXTR would also confirm that the Instagram and Facebook accounts were run by the same person, as well as the fact that Exotic isn't dead at all. The tweet was just as GD Water insinuated, done for attention. Thing is though, even Storm doesn't know where Exotic is anymore. When Exotic disappeared after realizing nobody believed in his legitimacy anymore, he vanished from Storm's life as well. With all details finally known, the only thing we can't do is talk to Exotic himself. He has seemingly disappeared off the face of the earth. Exotic would at a later point in 2016 contact Storm again through WhatsApp, saying that he returned to playing GD on a new account, but was not playing competitively and only played again for a short period of time. And that is all that is known, as he completely disappeared from online activity to never be seen again by anyone. One thing's for sure though, the infamous statement of Exotic dying was complete nonsense. He is very likely still alive out there somewhere in Italy, and I am happy to have debunked the supposed death of Exotic once and for all. I went into the script not really sure what to expect from Septicons' research, as I hadn't learned all the details up until this point, but now seeing that pretty much the entirety of Exotic's story was being created through lies and manipulation, the story just leaves me with a sour taste in my mouth. All of this has been in the glorification of a liar and a cheater, and a community unknowingly cherished and respected those lies.
I agree.
Through investigating the history and mysteries left behind by Exotic, it is clear his time within the game left a big legacy and mark on the game, and many people, even if his time at the top of the game was built through lies and hacks. Despite him disappearing just as quickly as he had risen up the leaderboards, one thing remains clear. The mysterious nature he held inspired some immoral people.
Let's see. Account is registered by some random ass impersonator. Starts posting, but isn't active replies. Stopped early January 2016. Probably is a room. That guy gets deleted and then it got deleted. Brad 96.
To misrepresent his life through impersonation or perpetuating false rumors. It also did inspire countless others to set out to achieve their goals within the game. But one thing that is worth remembering in stories like these is that while people look up to those who are skilled and successful, it is important to remember that true success should be earned through hard work and dedication. It is also just as important to remember that despite everything, Exotic was a real person and left a real impact on other people, regardless of Exotic's legitimacy put into question. Cheaters should never be glorified, but their stories shouldn't be forgotten either. This player's story took place almost a decade as of the making of this video, and the intrigue and mystery of the strangest former top 1 star grinder had practically faded into nothing, remaining only a distant memory to a select few that still remember. This player lacked the proper documentation for the longest time, and thanks to Septicon and others involved in this project, they have helped define the strange legacy of one of Geometry Dash's most infamous mysteries.
Love Septa.
With this story told, I can now close the end of this video by saying thank you Septicon for allowing me to share this story with the world, and thank you for watching a decade-long mystery finally getting closure to the general community.
Even then though.
See you all in the next video.
Fuck Kawaki. Starfly's videos, there's like those videos like they're like the video, like, you know, like we all have like a video that like, or like even like a bunch of videos from like a channel that like, hold on, like you wish you could watch for the first time. Stormfly like almost all of his videos are like, I wish I could watch this shit for the first time. Like, I always just, like, rewatch. Like, I feel that way with, like, every Stormfly video. I kind of... Why did Ultrakawa tweet, I hate Geometry Dash? I regret saying this tweet. I don't agree with it anymore. When did he send that? 2 minutes after he tweeted, I hate Geometry Dash, he replied to it with, like, I regret this. I don't... But he folded under no pressure. Imagine if you didn't pick. Next Christmas will be 25. Yeah. That is the worst top 5 I've ever seen. Anyway. I have to go. Fun ass stream. I love Stormfly. I hope this guy